like I said, I think next week, I'm going to take the next couple of weeks off here because I've got a lot of traveling to do, and I'm going to be in DC among other places. So I'm not sure how much I'm going to be on here for the next 3 weeks, but I'll keep everybody posted. So how are you this morning?
Doing great.
Awesome. So I'm going to bring your outline up here today. I love it. You're organized. And start an outline. We usually just talk, and so, but this is fantastic. So how's your weekend?
It was a good weekend. Had a good gathering with some friends in the community that I work with, and had a nice chat session for several hours Saturday night. So it's always good to get everybody on the same page, and with new people, try to get them up to speed with some of what we've been doing for 5 years. So
that's amazing. How many people do you have in your networks that you talk to about?
Well, I've got a little over 100 that I email every week or two to keep them up on what's going on a variety of topics, and then try to do monthly meetings most of the year. We take a couple months off in the summer, but it's just, and then those that attend the meetings with us, there's a little growing group, which is good to have some support at meetings.
Yeah, that's wonderful. When I get past the 4th of July, maybe I'll be able to run up sometime and say hi to everybody. That would be nice.
That'd be great.
Yeah. So where we started here, it's things that you noticed after last week's show. What did you notice?
Well, I thought it interesting because I've been aware of the Open Meeting Acts and the Freedom of Information Act for quite some time, and I was early on in my journey. I started reading those, and so I had made the comment that they were easy to read because they weren't that long, and so I made the comment that the Open Meeting Act was 8 pages. Well, then I noticed that you had shared it in the Telegram channel, and when I clicked on it, I was like, wait, what happened? It's 13 pages now. Well, that was kind of curious because these are old documents. It's not like it's a new law that just went into effect. But because of sitting in township meetings and commissioner meetings, I knew that there was something coming for the internet for the American with Disabilities. And that is that all websites that are, I forget how they state it, but basically any of the public websites like the state, the township, the counties, cities will need to become compliant with this new law that I don't even know if it's a law, but it's an act that they need to have all of these things in place. They moved it back a year. It was supposed to be this year that was going to happen, but it actually is happening next year. And that's for the larger communities that are 50,000 and above. And smaller jurisdictions have one additional year till 2028. But in listening to what it is, and I sent you a little accessibility document, I always find these things interesting when they are trying to tell you why something needs to happen. They give you the worst case scenarios and numbers that make it sound like you really have no choice but to do this because of the impact. So I mean, they talk about 1.3 billion people worldwide who live with disabilities, including auditory, cognitive, neurological, physical, speech, and visual disabilities. And then they go on to say many disabilities can significantly impact how users interact with the web. So they never actually tell you which of these things stop people from interacting with the web. They just say it can. And as you know, the words can, shall, must all have very different meanings when they're used. And so I just look at that and I go, well, I'd like to know how many actually are directly impacted that can't use websites that are out there because of this. I mean, they reference color blindness and different things. And font size, as we know, I mean, we have the large text versions of documents. And but I do find it interesting because a PDF, you're able to zoom in and make it any size you need to be able to read, even if it starts out very small. So, for instance, the Open Meeting Act and the FOIA, okay, the state website, it was a smaller font, but it comes down as a PDF, which you can zoom in and make it large enough to read even on a phone. So So
The point you're making is, why did they make a big deal out of this when the users already have that ability to take care of it themselves?
yes, technology is already embedded out there for this to happen. But a discussion that took place at our township after they went to the Michigan Township Association conference where they heard about this, they came back going, you know what, if there's a possibility that we're going to get fined because one of our documents on our website's not up to the standard because they will have to be formatted a certain way, give options for changing the color contrast, and the PDFs have to be saved with a certain font. So even your current documents, you have to go back. So like on the state website, I noticed after you posted that on June 6th, there was an update. Well, I went back and looked yesterday or Saturday, and now it says June 10th. So they're still actively having to re-render these things to make them compliant.
Well, here's the question. If government is supposed to be locally directed, why is it that the state is fining all of the townships or whatever for being compliant with what they want done? Isn't it supposed to be the other way around?
Well, and this is actually, I believe, it's at a...
What's a federal one? Okay.
Yes, it's not just state.
So how in the world does the federal government tell the states what to do?
Right. Well, and in our case, how are all the small townships who most don't have their own administrative assistant hired? So
Right.
Who's going to go back and redo their documents? Who's going to make sure all their meeting minutes are put up in a certain font and a certain format? So what this is doing is creating a tremendous amount of income stream for a bunch of people that will now go out there and say, we will update your website for you. Give us all your documents. So we look at the cost and the possibility of a fine that could be much more significant.
Or the broke townships. All the townships are completely broke without federal money.
Right. And so you go, so the discussion was, maybe we'll just get rid of our website. So I go, oh, wait. So we're going to help some people potentially that it can help them by making it such that we will just get rid of the websites, and then the whole community loses because now we have no access. Oh, and we don't have anybody answering the phones all the time. So if they want information they could have gone to a website to get, and now they took the website down because they weren't going to try to figure out how to stay compliant with all these new rules and regulations. Then, okay, now when we want to find out, is it recycle this week or next, and we lost our calendar, but we could look online. Oh, but the website doesn't exist. So it's like, are we really benefiting our communities by putting this in place? And how many people with the disabilities are complaining? I mean, that's what I mean. You don't really know the numbers. So to tell us 1.3 billion have some type of disability doesn't really give us any clue locally what the impact is. So I haven't seen those studies. Maybe they exist somewhere. But
well, and it comes back to, if there's a will, there's a way. You know what I mean? If people want that information, there are multiple ways of getting that information.
correct.
And I don't know, it's sort of like having other languages available for public services and such. It's such a horrific expense that, there's got to be some cohesion and unity that's built in. Otherwise, let's just say that we provide Spanish as a second language. Now what happens if we get a whole bunch of people that are Arabic here? They can scream the same thing, and now we've got to have everything in triplicate or, quadruple or whatever it is. We're speaking Farsi or whatever. I mean, think about that. The precedent being set for that, and the amount of dollars and creation of other jobs and such that goes with this. And the grift, the biggest grift in all of this stuff that I see goes back to a language that they've used on our signs. They paid 2 guys to create a more readable font for the signage, and everybody has to pay a royalty to those 2 guys and it didn't improve the visibility at all. They just created an industry, and they've made a tremendous amount of money off of this for no reason.
Right.
You know?
And one of the questions is the companies that are doing these upgrades for all these townships and cities and stuff. Okay, what happens if they mess up and they don't put a document out correctly? Who's going to be liable for all of that? So then who do we help? Oh, that's right. We get the lawyers involved again. So they all make a lot of money off of trying to defend everybody.
Screw everybody. It's like legal theft from the attorneys.
Well, I might feel that at the moment from.
Well, I'll say it out loud. The whole bar association should be abolished, because the private membership association, they don't even hand out licenses. That's just a good old boys club to protect themselves.
That is a misconception in Michigan, is that our lawyers are licensed.
Yeah, we don't have any licenses. But they say, oh, I got a license to practice. No, you don't. Now you're committing fraud upon the people of Michigan. So they should all be prosecuted. I got a license to practice. No, you don't.
Yeah. Well, part of the education system, that things I've learned over the past 5 years, that, again, if we don't dig into these things, you just kind of assume this is how it goes, and because that's what we were told. But it's much like our people that are elected to these positions. They're in the same boat of going, well, I was just told we've always done it this way, so therefore we keep doing it that way, instead of going, maybe it's not the right way and we actually need to go out and learn how to do it the right way.
Think for ourselves and insert some honesty and credibility and virtue into the things we do, instead of just being a sheeple.
Right. Well, and unfortunately, when you do learn, then they don't appreciate that you learned something, because then you ask too many questions, or you make too many public comments, or letters to the editor, or whatever the case may be, that they find it very uncomfortable for the people to become educated on a lot of these topics. So,
oh no, maybe somebody wouldn't like us for holding them accountable. Wouldn't that be tragic?
Well, I
really appreciate you, Renita. You're amazing.
I would have given up a few years ago, so with my husband, if we would have felt that that was the reason we were doing this, but it's not. We do believe that there are rules and there are policies and there are laws, and they should be followed. And certainly if you run for a position and the people have elected you with some confidence that you were actually working on their behalf, you should do such. But to start to attack the public that elected you is not really fulfilling your duty as a servant to the people. Mm-hmm. So, at least from my perspective, which is why we keep fighting and learning.
Yeah.
So, and so, I mean, like with that ADA, it's like, what is the cost benefit? And what is the downside of it? I mean, you only hear of the people it's going to help, but it doesn't tell you at what cost and what other things are we going to lose now by putting something through.
To your point, though, there are other ways of getting this done on computers, and it's kind of an insult to people in a way. If you have to have everything spoon-fed, instead of the fact that everybody's on a computer. Everybody is using a computer or their phone. There's always ways of doing it. You can do, I've got a friend who doesn't read or write, and he makes it work, and he writes, and he gets it all done, but he does it by voice. He has it talked to him, and that's on his phone. That's not having to be, done through a township or municipality. That, it's not done through the government. It's just, he's just got skill to just, if you can't make this work, then go to your thing and your phone and have it translate for you, or have it, you can translate. It's just like in other languages. You can translate anything in other languages. If you don't want to learn the accepted language of a country, then figure it out. Either learn it or get a translator. There's lots of options.
And if you look at some of the school websites, they already have the ability to translate their websites for people using it into a lot of different languages. It's not just English or Spanish. Right. I know our website for our local school district has a multitude of different languages you can select. So as you have more people where English is a second language, they already have their websites interpreting things. Mm-hmm. So again, the thing is, this not only applies to like local governments, it will also potentially be applied to nonprofits. So that's another whole can of worms. And you can archive all your old documents and kind of grandfather them in under, not complying with it, but anything new coming on your website would need to be compliant with that, as well as your existing static part of your website in your drop downs and things. So,
Interesting.
So that's just a thing that I guess people can check with their townships and see how they're planning to deal with that and what approach. Some are ahead of it, and like I said, the state's still sitting there trying to figure it out if they're changing their documents every few days for how they rendered them under the compliance. So Freedom of Information Act was 14 pages. Now it's 20 pages. So how many more trees are we going to kill when people want to print these out because they've made them so much bigger? So it's just kind of a cumulative effect of what's the downside. We're only told, well, it's going to benefit somebody. And that seems to be a lot of what we hear is things that are put in place because they're going to benefit somebody. But is it a few people or 1%? Not that we dismiss that 1%, but what's the cost to do these things? And as you say, as we sit and listen to all the grant money and everything that all of the different bodies use, it is, from my perspective, feels a little bit like corporate welfare after a while. Yeah. Because they really can't survive without all of this money. Yet they keep taking more and more money from us. So I'm not sure how they get all these grants, but somehow we keep paying. And
so there's no accountability for any of it. There's no accountability for them to produce. It's just like when Mary Barra took the $846 million grant to create 4,000 jobs allegedly, and then went and opened up a plant down in Mexico. Where is that an okay thing for us? I mean, you're looking at a company and a lot of corporations that are actually owned by foreign entities. We're just flushing it right out of the country. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, the money. Well, I don't know all the details for Goshen and all the different things in the battery plants from China, and I know there have been a lot of different investments, and we watch it locally. You just kind of watch. We've sat in city council where we see a new company or expanding company, and they're like, oh, to save these 26 jobs, we're going to give millions of dollars in credits. And you just go, at what cost?
Maybe they should compete or get in there and try to perform like the rest of us. If they can't make it without the big corporate welfare subsidies and such, maybe they shouldn't be there. Maybe we should have everyday Americans figuring it out like we've always done it.
You mean instead of creating budgets that actually, like, if your funding's going down, you decrease your budget rather than increase it and go, we'll figure out later how to pay for what we are short.
Yeah, let's just go grab that group of people over there and turn them upside down and shake out their pockets and see. That's how we'll fix the problem.
Well, we will. School bonds is obviously one of those things that we have run into, and I've been watching across the state, and a lot of that's the same thing. I mean, we don't have money to keep our buildings well maintained and fixed, but at the same time, we keep running budgets over into a deficit and then go, well, we can't fix the building, so we just need to tax you guys a little more. You need to pay for the next 25 years for your lifetime and maybe your kids. But so, I mean, those are all things, again, we keep learning and digging. It's kind of interesting to see how money flows or how we lose so much of our money that we're trying to live on.
Yeah, so. They don't see us as anything except for in the way and something to steal from. But I digress. So, training opportunities, civic responsibilities.
Yeah, this is something I started right from the beginning after I took the Constitution class, as I started watching for opportunities to get out and learn, because there are different organizations out there that you can go in person. I enjoyed doing the in-person training because it gives you a chance to network with other people that are either just starting out or some that have been in the trenches for a while, to hear So like one of the first trainings I went to was on school boards and FOIAs and things. So that was just something that I thought, well, this will be interesting to go and learn. I had gone to a few school board meetings, and listening to people that either were on school boards or had been attending school board meetings for a while was just very educational, because you could kind of hear some of their stories about what worked, what didn't work. And you find every community, every school district is different. So it's not like there's a cookie cutter way to do any of this stuff, because the whole makeup of a board is going to be different. And so the one of the other things I did was took a Foundations for Applied Conservative Leadership. And that group, referred to as FACL, they do a lot of political leadership training. And so I found that interesting. Again, not knowing what direction I was going with anything when I started this 5 years ago, I was like, well, let's go see what does a political side of things look like. And so they would sit there and give you the opportunity to talk to people. They had people come in that did the training and speaking to the group, and then you'd have breakout sessions and discuss with others. And it just gave an idea of how do you even go through the process of building up a campaign? How do you fund it? How do you get supporters? So that was very helpful to learn that information.
Do you know who's behind them?
I don't know for them. I don't, again, when I did all of this in the beginning, I didn't have all of those types of things I even knew to look into. But I know they have people around the country that do this. Like the person that spoke at ours was from Indiana, that had gone through the ranks and was in, I can't remember if it was the House or the Senate in Indiana, but so they would share from their experiences and what happens. And one of the biggest things I was impressed with out of that training was the need to stay in the game. You don't do things for a few months and then go, okay, here's an election, win or lose, it's done, we walk away. So the need to constantly stay engaged, which is why I've been going to all these meetings all these years, is because you don't learn a lot if you just go a few times and you walk away. Because every meeting has some topic or discussion that you can pick little parts out and tuck them aside for later. And that's how we start to cross-reference is what's going on at the commissioner meetings, and then you listen to the township meetings, and then you go to the school board or you go to a city council. So you find the overlaps, and then you find how, I mean, we've had times where at our township meetings, we would have to inform them about what we heard at commissioners that was going to affect our township, because they hadn't heard about it yet, but we heard about it in a commissioner meeting. So again, just kind of being that, I guess, voluntary liaison, whether they want it or not, between organizations, and just trying to keep information flowing to optimize what's going on. And so that was some of what I learned out of that one. Another thing quite a few of us took was Robert's Rules of Order. And that's a good way just to kind of understand the parliamentary procedure that takes place at meetings, helps the public understand. So they offered that out in our community, and I know there were about 35 that took it, mostly from our area. But again, it just lets you know when you're sitting in a meeting, what's the purpose of the motions and the second and the discussion and what order those things should take place. And so Leadership Institute, that's not the class that we took because we had somebody come and do it in person. But they do have that out there, and it's only $15. And it's, I would guess, a good course to be able to just get some preliminary basics. The book itself is much larger, hundreds of pages. And a lot of board meetings, you're not going to go into that kind of depth. Ironically, we were aware of all of this, and we've sat through the school board meetings and stuff. Well, a couple years ago, all of a sudden, we're sitting in a meeting, and someone that we knew to be a parliamentarian at another organization the president looked at him and was kind of confused about where to go next. And so he looked at him and he goes, I'm not really sure. How should we handle this? Well, this individual just shrugged his shoulders. And Joe and I just kind of looked at each other because we're like, wait a minute. He knows how meetings are supposed to flow. He's a parliamentarian. Well, that made us question things. So we went home and we're like, okay, they used to have a policy that said Robert's Rules of Order governed their meetings. Well, we found out when they adopted their new Troon law firm policy manual, it no longer referenced Robert's Rules of Order for conducting their meetings. So again, just little things, once you learn them, you can go through and kind of apply it, and you notice when things aren't working the way they're supposed to.
I see that Chris Ann Hall is the teacher of the history of the Constitution. I just absolutely adore her. She is wonderful.
Yes, I've heard some of her brief talks. I didn't take the class through that, but yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, they have Leadership Institute has a wide variety. I've taken a few of those, some in person and some just through the Zoom call training. And they offer a lot of opportunities for people that want to get out there and kind of, it's a good way to figure out, is it something I want to do? And then if I do it, get elected for a position, how should I move forward? What kinds of things should I push? What should I ask for? One of the things on that site too was the Citizen Ninja. Well, that was a class that Joe and I took. It was a video class, and we got the books and stuff. And it talked about the fact that you need to get into your community. You need to learn the structure, the organizations, the different elected positions. And it tells you how to become more active and become kind of a little ninja in your community, so to say, and ways to promote getting out there and learning. And so that was a good class as well to take. So
that's awesome. That, just the constant pursuit of learning new things is something that should be on everyone's list for the day. What can I learn today? And then at the end of the day, what did I learn? You'll feel good about yourself too if you put yourself on a self-education track in life instead of going to one just instant gratification thing to the other. Have a long-term plan where every day you make a little bit of a gain. I mean, I once heard, if you think about this, if you memorize one verse of the Bible every day, think about how much of the Bible you have memorized within a year. It's tremendous,
Well, and that's
in bite-sized pieces.
And that's what a lot of this has been, is just a gradual accumulation of information over the years and different pockets of how to do things. And and I know like Hillsdale College has a whole bunch of free courses as well on different topics. And so if somebody goes out and uses Google or some other platform, they can go out and find different topics that they want to learn about. So it is something that I used to hear the old adage that you only use 10% of your brain. And that was what I remembered from when I was a kid. And I found some other people that remember that too. Well, ironically, I went to Google that to prove it to somebody once. And all of a sudden, the internet now tells you use 70% of your brain. And I was like, really? So
I'm not sure how that could possibly be.
So I'm like, and then another one was like, it's almost totally used. So I'm going, I guess it just depends which website you want to believe, but I would hate to think we are so maxed out that we really can't learn a whole lot more. Because I know I've learned a whole lot in 5 years, that probably more than I did in most of my prior years, at least on all of these topics, because this was not something I spent any energy. I knew minimal about. And as I got involved, it was important to educate ourselves and then to bring some friends along. And that's kind of where we are, is we keep trying to find new people in the community that want to learn a little more, get a little more involved, and also just understand the kind of the inner workings of the government locally, because it does take educating a larger group so that you can stand up and make a difference, because one of us can make a difference, but 10 or 20 would make a bigger difference.
Right. And so I will repost all of these links on my Telegram and X account for people too, so that they can have access to all of it. So I think this is really great. I like the Leadership Institute too. So I mean, this is going to be very, very helpful. I had a gal on here years ago, a couple of years ago, and I've got to look her up, because she came to me through the gentleman that was instrumental in writing the continuity of government, policies. And so I found them to be very, very interesting, both of them, because they actually did the work and are involved on a very high level of how to make things work the way it's supposed to be. Right.
And that's the thing. There are rules, laws, there are things that are supposed to be followed. And sadly, if they don't follow the laws, we end up with little recourse but to try to change things. And again, through the legal system, it's almost impossible to hold people accountable. I mean,
you gotta have good people sitting in the seats until people start stepping up to run for office. We're going to have the same old selected candidates that they choose for us, that we really have no voice in, and they're being paid by the corporations. That's why they have the big money. We can't spend them, but we can outperform them if everybody, gets on board and starts pulling weight together. I don't think you can do it through the uniparty, because it's so rigged by money.
Well, and the more things, and sadly, Michigan, I can't remember if it was 24 states or something that uses the straight ticket voting.
Right.
Because that is a liability for anybody that's not one of the two major parties, because
so they control the whole thing.
Right. And I think I mentioned to you that school boards, they're looking at trying to make them partisan now. Well, that basically says, okay, if you're an independent person, if you don't claim a party to run under, then you will never make it through that whole election process. So it kind of controls who ends up on the school boards. You would have to be an R or D, or you don't get on, because
and the R and the Ds get chosen by a very small group of people who are funded by the corporations. It's like this rat wheel that we're on.
Yes, so it's difficult to break in. The only good thing is knowing that about 75% of the elections in Michigan are running unopposed. Tells you there is a lot of room to start, especially at the local level, about starting to make a difference.
Yes.
And I mean, at the higher levels, it's a little harder to do that, but most of your trustees and clerks and treasurer and supervisors, they run unopposed. So there are ways to start having people within a community start to step up and go, we want to see some changes, and start running for some of those positions.
We need to absolutely oppose this partisan crap that's going on at every level, because this is a real problem.
It is. I mean, in the school district, if Michigan passes that for the board, it will eliminate anybody that's not willing to do that. It also, instead of us electing, I'm sorry, the hiring was a slip there.
Well, it should be hiring, but that's not what we created as,
So, but I mean, instead of trying to pick a side, which is what they have us doing, it would be much better if we just pick the best qualified person for a position.
Right.
And that way you're not having to have this allegiance. But that would take a lot to change Michigan laws to get rid of our straight ticket voting. And but that would be another discussion on the whole election process.
Yeah, we have a lot of room for improvement here. I'll give you that.
So part of this whole journey has been to figure out how to educate myself and as many people as I can bring along through the years. There are some that have been with us since the beginning, and we keep adding new people they'll see something and get curious and ask a few more. So a few more questions. But I would just tell people, start attending meetings. I mean, you can do school board, you can do township, city commissioners, any of those meetings. And then there's other ones like the state. I mean, I've been down to Lansing a few times for the State Board of Education. So you just sit and listen to all these things and pick up little bits and pieces. And it's fun for me because I like to watch a room to see who's interacting with who and who looks at who and all that, because that tells you a lot about what's going on possibly behind the scenes as well.
Oh, there's structures and groups of people that work together, not for our best interest.
Right.
Yeah.
We thought they were. I mean, that was the way I always thought. Well, we're electing people that are going to take care of us more or less and do the right thing for us. And you get in and you find out there are good people out there still. It's not that everybody in elected positions is bad, but there are some that need to be educated a little more on how to do their jobs well for the people. And we did have one school board candidate at a forum that made the comment. He goes, once you elect us, your job is done. And that is the kind of concept you go, maybe too many of them think like that. And that's why they ignore us during public comment at school boards. And they don't feel the need to engage with us because they view us as irrelevant once they get in that seat. And it's unfortunate. I would hope there aren't a lot of school board members like that, but what I see on the internet tells me there are more than we would like. So talking to a current person that's on one of these committees, positions, and there are tons of subcommittees that, like the Board of Review, those are appointed positions. So you have your elected positions. Like I said, I think there's like 325 or something in our county that are elected through that process. But then you have all of the commissions and committees that are appointed. That was something I learned too, sitting in the commissioner meetings, is that individuals are only supposed to be on those appointments for 2 cycles. And then they're supposed to be replaced. Well, I found out that they set aside one of their rules, that rule, so that people can continue. And they say, well, it's because nobody volunteered to do it. So again, this is another place where people that want to become active, go out and look at your city and your county website. Look at all the different, there's a long list of commissions and groups. Start attending their meetings. Go find out what they're all about. What do you need to do to get appointed to those? So there's plenty of opportunity if people are willing to make the commitment. And it is a time commitment. And as you know, none of this is free. So sometimes these are unpaid positions or nominally paid. So it really is a true heart for serving the people that you step into these roles and to help the community. So as we get more people with integrity and character to do the right thing, it will start to change how this looks in our communities.
That's the most truest statement right there, is that it takes good people who are willing to see it as their civic duty to step forward and say, I want to leave this nation, or our community better for my kids, my grandkids, the people around me that I see every day, than what it's devolved into. And get up and stop the criminality, stop the things that we see that are wrong, and really thinking about what is it that we love about the United States, or that we want to see this be built into. We can change it. We absolutely can change the things that we dislike. But to do that means we're going to have to get in there and help lift the weight. If we leave it to somebody else, it's too easy for evil to sneak into the cracks. Even if there's a good group of people, we need to keep going at it. You can't walk away from it, or it devolves into a worse form than what we've been handed.
Right. Mm-hmm. And as you learn how to do that, you can step in and feel more informed, so that you can go in and challenge even the existing. group of people that are on there. I know it's interesting that like the whole board comes up for election at one time in townships. So you have the potential to flip a whole board if you wanted to with a group of people in the community, or at least some portion of it. Whereas like school boards, they rotate their members in and out. So you might have 2 or 3 in a given year, maybe 4, but that's always part of it stays and part of it changes. Commissioners, they all go out at one time. That moved, I don't know how many people know, that used to be a 2-year position, which basically meant they barely quit campaigning, got their job, and started campaigning again. So now it's a 4-year position. So it has a little more continuity to it. But otherwise, like you were mentioning before, the amount of money that goes into election cycles is just crazy. And
Obscene.
The amount of money, and that's been one of the things I've talked to my group about from the beginning, is it really is just a way for the everyday person to chip in $5, $10, $20 or whatever, to feel like they did something, not realizing there's like tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions being used to manipulate the elections. So basically, I feel like it's just a way to further steal money from the everyday person, because they want to feel like they're doing something when in reality, they're not going to change too many elections.
Not through money. Not through money.
So that's why educating, talking to the public, door knocking, that was the way we did some stuff locally. And then there are other things like a bond campaign where you've got 22,000 households of voters. Well, that's almost impossible to do a door knocking campaign if you're a small group. So that's why we chose the mass mailing option, because then we could get to all those houses. Because when you're knocking doors, you have to use somebody's application and tell them whose door you knocked. And so then the other people are collecting data, and I don't like being involved in all of that. So instead, we just did the mass mailing so that we could get to every voter's household and let them decide then. And educating people is important, because that's one of our goals, is that the people perish without knowledge. And Hosea is kind of one of our themes, is if we can help educate the public, we have a better chance of changing the public, and hopefully changing it for the better. And I think there are things that we've done that have improved the qualities in different areas, and there are others still learning and willing to work with us. So we keep working with those that are willing to work with us. And, so we see what we can do. But yeah, one of the other things is check out the websites, whether it's your township or whatever, and see what's out there. There's a lot of stuff hidden behind your school districts. They have so many links to go to so many different areas. But if you want to go check their attendance, check their history, check their academics, check their finances, there are links on the websites to get to that information. And it's just a way that we've self-educated on this. I mean, you hear some stuff, and the agenda packets for the school boards is really critical, because it has a lot of information you're not going to find on their website just wandering through. And that's one reason I felt so strongly about it, and why I ended up filing the lawsuit, is because I think that's critical information that the public should have. And there are some townships that put that online before meetings. Ours does not. We haven't gotten to that level yet, but we keep trying to step things up. And depending how far off you are from optimal, it can take several years to start to make the changes. And
you have to stay in the fight. I mean, that's the deal. Like you said, you have to stay in the fight. You can't just walk away from it and think, well, I've spent my 5 minutes.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
No, it is a long process, and the more you learn, the more you can help the others to learn if they're willing. We have found some are willing, and some have no interest in what we have learned. So we work with those that are willing to work with us, and those that aren't, we try to either figure out how to work around them or find a different approach. But and then if you can't find what you're looking for, then you use the FOIA as a option to get additional information that should be available to the public. And sometimes the first time you ask for something, they give you not what you want, so you have to ask again. And sometimes they say you don't need that data, and it's like, no, it's public information. I have a right to that data. So sometimes you have to kind of go at it a few times to get to what you're looking for. And then teaching others along the way. I mean, that's been my goal from the start of this, was to, I have a group, we call ourselves Midland Integrity Team, because that's what we're trying to build in this community, is to try to build some integrity and character that makes it so people will trust the organizations that are out there and the people we elected. So that has been one of my goals, and I feel like we're making headway. So
yeah, well, I think so. You got a lot of great people that are on this working together. It goes back to, you can change so much if people just unite and decide they have a common purpose and work together on it. And it's amazing. I think that's what we need to do as a whole nation, is we need to come together. And I'm not talking for commerce or collectivism, but it's for things that we treasure and that we're fighting for. So it's perfect process. So yeah.
And local does make a difference, because it's the smallest part of all of that to start working with.
It's supposed to be the most impactful part of our government, but for some reason they kind of inverted things a little bit here. So we need to take it back. To me, I look at that and I say it's kind of a satanic system, because the Satanists and the satanic system always inverts things. Evil always inverts it. They'll tell you, oh no, this is good, even when you know in your heart it's bad. And then they try to justify things. So it's unfortunate, but the pattern repeats. It's pretty easy to see that.
We've seen quite a few patterns in the last 5 years that some we like and some we have to try to help encourage change.
Yeah, we sure have, haven't we? This has been quite a time to be alive. All the things we're seeing.
We didn't know all the stuff we didn't know.
No, we didn't know the whole trans, the trans thing, that, a lot of the people that we think are women are actually men, and vice versa. And, the things that you go, oh, okay, I didn't know that was going on, to further an agenda and such. And there's many people out there that have put out videos against this identity theft. It's an identity theft thing, not only, I don't know. I mean, it's a problem. It's a large problem. So,
well, there are certainly many layers to a lot of topics that I didn't know years ago. This has been part of my journey. So, as you say, I know God calls us to different things at different times in our lives, and this is certainly not anything. When Joe and I got married 14 years ago, this was not on our radar to spend 5 years doing this, but it's what we were gifted to do, I believe, and he's called us to do it. So we're trying to be as faithful as we can to create a legacy that'll make a difference in our community.
Well, getting in the fight and staying in it is how you move things. You don't build something in a day. Typically, you've got to stay with it for quite a long period of time. Well, this is great, and I really appreciate you bringing up the Leadership Institute and Chris Ann Hall's. I should text her. I should text her and see if I can get her on. I actually have her cell phone, so she was going to come on before, and I wasn't able to get her on because she had all of a suddenly she was called away suddenly, which it was a legit thing, but we weren't able to get her back on again. So we'll see. I'll see if I can give her a call, and that would be fun to get her on, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, she has a lot of information to share.
She sure does. And if you want to get good information, listen to Chris Ann Hall. She's amazing.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, is there anything else you want to close with here? And then we'll go to prayers and go on to our day.
I think at this point that covers kind of today's topics that I was looking at doing. And I heard you say you were going to be on vacation for a couple of weeks. So,
well, I wouldn't exactly call it vacation. I don't really like take vacation, but I got called away to DC and some other things that need some immediate attention. So I've got about 3 trips that I have to take for important reasons. It's like when I'm here, it's great. We're all educating, we're talking, but sometimes when I'm not here, it's sometimes more important than sitting here, because I'm also gathering information and doing other things.
Right.
Yeah. So on the same team, doing the same thing, fighting for the same team, but doing other things that are required to happen in order for us to take the nation back. So I'm just, whatever I'm called to, I usually say yes. And as long as it's ethical, honest, and will fit within my purview of what's the right thing to do. I'll never lie for anyone. In fact, if somebody threatens me, I typically throw it out for that person threatened me and this is what happened. I will do that. So, and I think that's something we talked to a person I know who is under a little bit of coercion right now, and is a younger person. And I said to them, remember this, it may seem like the right thing to do to hide or not say anything. It's always the wrong thing to do. If somebody is threatening you, coercing, using coercion, threat, or duress, you have to rat them out, because it's not okay. It's not okay for a person to abuse you or to do something that hurts you. If they do that, run right to the biggest megaphone you can find, microphone, and you shout it out there, because somebody will come to your help. They'll come to your aid. You don't have to live that way. And there's a lot of good people that will step up to defend you as long as they know what's going on. But you got to be loud, and you got to continue to get louder until the bad people are thrown out in the spotlight, and dark to light. We got to continue to bring things from the dark to the light so that people know. How are they going to know if we don't say something?
Right. And the thing is, they can come and talk to us about things going on or something that they're aware of. And we can't do much about it. We're hearsay. We're not the person that heard it firsthand. And so we need them to be able to stand up. And I have found over the years that is very difficult, especially for people elected in positions, that there's something that controls them, that they will not step out and be honest with the community, even when they know something is blatantly wrong that's happening. They'll just
Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? It's like, I'd like to see exactly what's running behind the snes and how it's running. We get glimpses of it and that sort of thing, but I think the whole thing should be just thrown out there for everyone to see who's been blackmailed, who's had a gun put to their kid's head or that sort of thing, because it's happening. That blackmail is happening, and who's involved in it, who's pulling the strings. I have a pretty good idea. I know the answer to that. Who the puppet masters are. Pretty good idea. And it's just a matter of time before all of them are thrown out in the open, and they're probably going to be dealt with for the treason and their crimes against humanity that they've committed. So, and I hope to be part of that. Well, I know accountability is something I think many of us are waiting patiently to. Yes, we're seeking accountability. So, all right. Well, that's great. So thank you. I appreciate you putting this all together. You're very thorough, and the sources you bring are wonderful. And I appreciate you all the work you've put into this over the years. And I'm sure sometimes it felt like it was nobody paid attention or tireless. I know Vicky was under that too. And that's what I strive to do, is bring people a way to get their voices out there and help educate people and get people to say, come on, don't sit back and wait for somebody else to do this. You got to get in the game. You got to fight. If you lay down right now, you're going to get walked over and trampled. You've got to get up, keep going. We're in a war. Keep going, keep fighting. And that's the way we win. So would you like to say the prayer today? Sure. That's great. Love it. Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this opportunity to share with others, to help encourage others to get involved, to become educated so that they can make a difference in their communities as well. Just thank you for all those that have been standing strong and holding the line to make a difference. And we just pray that you would give us the wisdom and discernment we need to keep moving forward, help us to be bold and courageous for you. And we just pray that we would have a good day and week ahead. In Jesus' name, amen. In Jesus' name. Thank you. That was wonderful. I love that. So I love praying. I love prayer, and just when God tells us to pray continuously as you go about your day, just, you think of something and say, well, God, what do you think of that? Or how to handle that and such. It's, I know it's stressful for a lot of people to pray and pray out loud. It's for a lot of people, it's but once you practice that, it becomes very easy to do. So I loved it that you prayed today. So anyhow, boys and girls, this is where we go to that part of the show. Ding, 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 ding. Go to brandenburgforgovernor.com because I'm the best non-conceder who was ever not conceded in the history of the United States of America. And I'd like to do a discussion with the rightful president of the United States, President Donald J. Trump. We're in cowboy boots. We'll see who wears better. It's going to be me because I wear them every day. And then we'll go ahead and fix things and have discussions with Renita and Vicky and everybody else out there. Pull the whole team in of actual fighters and then fix this stuff. So with that said, everybody have a great day today. I plan on seeing you tomorrow, and then we'll see after tomorrow how many days I'm going to be on from now to the 4th, because I think it's probably going to be pretty limited. And so I've got a lot of things that I have to work on, and I want to be able to be in the game to do the things that count. And this does take quite a bit of work. It takes me time to set it up. Takes me time to talk to the guests and get everybody lined up and that sort of thing. And it takes time to archive it, make sure it's everywhere, promote it. It's a lot of work. It looks it's a lot more work than the 2 or 3 hours that you see me on camera. And so, and the same thing with everybody that joins in. It's a tremendous act of love and grace for everyone out there, from everyone that shows up here to talk and tell what they know. And so I appreciate you guys passing this on, for helping us get the word out, and for standing with us. And I'd like to encourage everybody to get a hold of me, because I'm the chairman of the U.S. Taxpayers Party, which is the Michigan affiliate of the National Constitution Party, because I'm trying to seat with county committees every single county across the state of Michigan and recruit candidates. We need to replace all of them, okay? That's it. We got to replace all of them with everyday Americans if we want to have it go in the favor of everyday Americans. So with that said, God bless you all. God bless all those whom you love, and God bless America. Make it a great day. Do the work that needs to be done. Get out there and do the things that we love to do and make this country into what we love. And thanks for being on, and stay on the line a minute, Renita. I'm going to end it.
Thank you.